lesson 17 is having us examine how we are to continue to use rates and ratios in order to solve any given word problem. So it just restates what your objective is here at the top. Given a rate, you can calculate the unit rate and associated ratios and recognize the ratios associated with a given rate are equivalent because they have the same value. So right here, they just want us to write the ratio as a rate. 434 to 7 would be, remember rate is saying per one of something. And so if we need to make 437 to 7, it's definitely much easier to create an equivalent ratio where my smaller number becomes a 1. And this is hours and miles. And again, rates for distance is always distance per time. Okay, so anytime they're comparing distance and time, it's always going to be written the distance per the time. Therefore, you should know you're always dividing by time. So we can say rates involving distance and time are always distance per time. And also it would always be the value is distance divided by your time. So rates involving distance and time are always distance per time, and the value is always distance divided by time. So right here, it's asking us to write out that rate. And so this is going to be 437, my distance, divided by my time. I need to do my long division. And 43 divided by 7 is a 6. That's 42. We subtract, we get 1. Bring down my 7. 17 divided by 7 would be a 2. Subtract 14. I get a 30. 30 divided by 7 is 4. I get a 28. That would be a 2. Bring down my 0. That's 20. 20 divided by 7 is 2. This looks like it's going to go on for a while. So when you get into a situation where your long division is turning into several ratios, I want you to go back to where your remainder would be and create a fraction. So we're going to go all the way back to here, taking off where I added the zeros. And this is a 62 remainder 3, which would be 62. The 3 becomes my numerator. What I was dividing by is my denominator. So 62 and 3/7 miles per, and remember you can do per with a slash, miles per hour. The next question they ask us is the ratio of 5 to 4, and they want us to say what our rate is. And 5 to 4 would be, we have laps to minutes. We always divide by time. So that is a ratio of 5 to 4, laps to minutes. 5 divided by 4. We're going to do our long division using the algorithm. 5 divided by 4 is 1. That's 10 divided by 4 would be a 2. Don't forget to bring up that decimal. And we get a 2. Bring down our 0. That's 20 divided by 4 is 5. And so our rate would then be 1.25 or 1 and 25 hundredths laps per minute. Now, you also could have done the same thing as you did over here. If you would have done the same thing over here, you would have stopped after 4. after you subtracted 4 with a remainder 1. And your answer would have been a 1. And so we can go ahead and do that. 1. The remainder 1 right here would become the numerator. What we divided by is our denominator, 1 1/4 laps per minute. Both are correct. It just depends on your preference. Down below, we're going to continue following that same pattern. So let's complete the model below using the ratio from example 1, part B. So example 1, part B, the ratio was 5 to 4. And our unit rate was 5 over 4, or 5 divided by 4. And so the rate would be 5/4 laps per minute. And we divided it to further answer that question above, so you could actually give an exact number. Right here where we had 1 1/4, 1 1/4 is 5/4, simplified into a mixed number. Up here, the 62 3/7 is also an improper fraction, which would be 437 over 7, turned into a mixed number. When you're writing the rate, in this scenario, they prefer that you keep it as the fraction, and so you actually see the two original numbers of the ratio in that rate. On the next page, we see one where it does not result in a fraction. You actually have a whole number, which means our value was 6 to 1. So looking at this, if it's 6 feet per second, that means that this was a 6 over 1 feet per second, which means our ratio is a 6 to 1, and the unit rate was 6 over 1, because that's what the value was, which means our value was 6, which is why the rate is 6 feet per second. The problem below is the first and the only example that I will give you. You have 2 more examples on the other page, and then you have one last example when you turn the page, and we'll look at how you do on number 4 before you move on to clarify any misunderstandings you may have between ratio, unit rate, and rate. So the problem says, Dave can clean pools at a constant rate of 3/5 pools per hour. What is the ratio of the number of pools to the number of hours? It's going to be 3 to 5. This would be pools to hours. How many pools can Dave clean in 10 hours? Well, I prefer the ratio table. We have pools and hours, and that would be 3, 5. My next one would be 6, 10. I'm done. I have my ratio that would tell me it's 6 pools in 10 hours. Now, a few of you prefer the tape diagram. I haven't seen anyone using the double number line, so I'm just going to show you the tape diagram. Our ratio is 3 to 5, so I'd create a 3 to 5 tape diagram. And this is my pools. Down here is my hours. My problem says 10 hours, which means this has to equal 10. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. 10 divided by 5 tells me that everything has the value of 2. Plug in my 2's, and that tells me 6 pools. The last one asks me how long does it take Dave to clean 15 pools. And again, it's the same idea. If you're doing that tape diagram, you have a 3 to 5 hours. This is 15 pools though, so I can either skip count 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, or I can recognize that I'm going to 15 pools, so I'm going from a 3 to a 15. 3 times 5 gives me 15, so I have to do the same thing over here. 5 times 5 gives me 25, and so it would take him 25 hours to clean 15 pools. If you want to do the tape diagram, draw the same tape diagram. Pools, hours. Make sure you have the correct ratio. And this is 15 pools, which means these 3 have to equal 15. So I take my 15 divided by my number of boxes, which tells me every box is worth 5. Put my 5 in each box. That's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, which gives me the 25 hours to clean 15 pools. On the next page, go ahead and complete number 4, and I will come and check it and see if you can move on to the checkpoint or if you need to be retaught a couple things about ratio, unit rate, and rate.